Why, hello YouTube! Greetings from the Lazy Eyebrow to the last review of Diet December. This is the review for Studio Series 86 Blurr, one of the several figures that Hasbro released in a repurposed line to give them an excuse to throw more Chug stuff into stores. Don't pretend like this isn't the case. Like, we've got Studio Series 86, Buzzworthy Bumblebee bringing us reissued repaints now apparently, Generation Selects giving us characters that are a little less on the popular side, like Smokescreen, and then you get your actual mainline release. I'm not complaining so much as my wallet is here, but all that aside, what it's all given us is the most cartoon-accurate representation of Blurr that's ever released in the Uniclassation scale. Like, finally, we have the opportunity to have ourselves a proper teal and blue hover car seen in the movie. And by opportunity, I mean we don't have to import the thing from Japan to have proper colors. But not even just importing, like the colors, the shapes, the contours, all of it comes together to make a really accurate Blurr, which is nice to have. It's not super accurate, mind you. The decision to reuse much of the transformation methods of Titan's Return has left this figure transforming very much unlike his G1 toy, and subsequently his on-screen counterpart. Why this matters is because the back of the car is supposed to have this white venting, and if not white, some versions make it teal. My point being, this is supposed to be his feet, and therefore should be colored as such, but are left the dark blue that the knees become. That and a bunch of other inaccuracies like the spire that's supposed to be his head thing but gets tucked away like Titan's Return did and whatnot. Basically what I'm driving at here is that this is an overhauled Titan's Return design, and while they've certainly done a substantial amount to make it appear accurate, it certainly isn't accurate at its core. Take that for what you will if that bothers you or not. But yeah, just talking aesthetics though, it certainly hits its mark. Everything curves like it should. The colors are how you'd expect from a line striving for on-screen accuracy to the best of its ability, and I really like this whole pilot seat deal. Like, you get a little low-detail flight yoke that Toy Hack's totally spruced up if that interests you. I really like the use of clear plastic here. It encases detail painted white beneath it, and on top is painted in a dark and light blue. It's the only approved use of clear in my opinion. Something non-structural and more or less decorative. The seat cavity is kind of cool though. I mean, with a lack of foot space you can't really put anything in here. However, a bisected minifigure could technically fit, albeit a bit big. Or you could pop in a printed Oscar, or whatever works for you. So basically, Blurr is a great representation of his on-screen character if you're looking at him from any angle north of level. Because that's another gripe I have with his figure, honestly. If we drop down to sea level, you get to see all this junk underneath. To be fair, all this junk does clean up the robot nicely, but for the hover car, it's just all sorts of Like, on the one hand, all this junk helps the hover car, well, hover. Or at least appear to, anyway. But in order to keep that illusion, you do have to be looking at it from a high angle. On the other hand, that's a disgusting amount of kibble. And not only that, but I never thought I'd actually be wishing for tiny casters. Most of the time they ruin the appearance of a figure, like giving anything with treads a small gap away from the surface it's supposed to be resting on, for instance. But compared to the Titan's Return, which actually did have casters, it did help a little by guiding the vehicle along a straight path during the filming of animation. I get what I do as a niche part of the market for these figures, but I'm just saying that I personally did prefer having these little guide wheels. But not only that, but Titan's Return just has a cleaner undercarriage, not just from this angle, but a right side up one as well. I'm not saying Titan's Return is better. I mean, look at this thing and tell me which one you want. I'm just saying that this one aspect was at least better. But this minor point aside, Studio Series is definitely the best looking one, especially if we're going on the merits of a movie-accurate non-sports car version of the figure. As for accessories, he comes with two, a rifle and an arc welder. For vehicle mode, they plug into the bottom. The rifle on this rectangular peg and the arc welder in these rectangular slots. And, that looks real dumb. Mind you, it's not like Titans did it any better, but I personally have never enjoyed this at all. And it's not like a better solution couldn't have been done. Like, why not storage between the legs? I mean, with enough tweaking, it certainly would have stored there properly. It already mostly fits. Oh well, what's done is done. For size comparison, here's Earthrise Hoist, Earthrise Grapple, Kingdom Sideswipe, Select Spinout, Earthrise Smokescreen, Earthrise Runamuck, Generations Drift, Selects Twin Cam, Studio Clunker B, Kingdom Prime, and Kingdom Prime. So that was Blurr. He's okay. He looks the part, but it's very clear this is a heavily modified redesign of a figure from a line that wasn't necessarily striving for accuracy in a line that its biggest goal is to do so. And we all know how those turn out. Anyway, stay tuned for robot mode.
The Transformers will return after these messages. We now return to the Transformers.
So to transform Blurr, start by untabbing and moving the arms to the side. On the bottom, untab the feet and move the shoulder sections into position, then finish moving the arms up. Open up the legs and then rotate them outward until they're straight. Untab and separate them. Fold in the fake head spire and close up the legs, then fold the feet down. On the arms, rotate the fronts of the scoops around, then fold them down to reveal the hands at the middle. Fold in the seat and rotate around the cockpit glass so it's oriented up. Rotate the arms down, then unclip and move the nose cone back, and you're done. And here we have Blurr in robot mode, which again looks absolutely great and faithful to his on-screen appearance, with all the blues and cyans and whites making their appearance exactly where they should and simultaneously making a rather clean robot mode. But where it isn't is accurate to the source material, so it gets a pass there too. All of that at the cost of the vehicle, but most people are more concerned about the robot anyway, so again, it gets a pass. Like, you get this head that's very well sculpted, however they also made the decision to make the head light-piped, something not seen often these days. Unfortunately, their choice of translucent blue is way too dark, and most of the time leaves the eyes looking cold and lifeless. I was able to get them to light up, and brilliantly at that, but it took nothing short of a blue laser pointer to get any results. Like, honestly, I think I would have just rather than painted instead of having to hold the figure up to the sun to see if he's alive or not. On the other hand, the head really isn't glued all that well together, and while animating this all fell apart, so it's pretty easy to paint these blue if I choose to do so in the future. The chest, on the other hand, as nice as it was in vehicle mode, is just as nice here. The white detailing inset looks fantastic behind that glass's robot-y detail, and fares far better than if it was just a tampographed image of whatever it was supposed to be. Like, I can't stress enough, this is how you do clear plastic. It showcases actual detail, adds to the overall visual look of the figure, and enhances the look. None of us are scared that our figure is about to sever at a critical joint because it's used strictly as fascia, and as such, it just complements the figure instead of just bringing it down. The nose of the vehicle is resting back here. It's inaccurate in the sense that this should be the back of the vehicle instead of the front, but A, it doesn't look all that bad back here, and 2, it's a heck of a lot better than needing the nose to pop off and figure out storage for that, since it being a doofy gun shield thing would have been awful. So sure, it also gets a pass back here. Not to say that it can't pop off, mind you, if you really feel like getting saucy. The arms have a ton of cable chunk from the front of the vehicle. This actually is accurate to the source, as cumbersome and dumb as it looks, and I did prefer what the Titans version did in having it there, but minimal. That minimalism, though, on the arms did come at a huge cost of relegating the rest of the fenders to leg storage the Studio Series just omits by having accurate arms, and the legs absolutely benefit from this choice. Funny how that works. The legs, by the way, are cast in blue, with the white showing up as incredibly thick paint, and on my version specifically, it came scuffed right out of the box. Or at least a paint bubble happened or something, and it's a little unsightly. So overall, the Studio Series robot mode is a definite improvement over the old Titans take. Like, they really did look at the old version and ask themselves what could be improved. And all things considered, sure, in 4 years, there's definitely been improvements that could have and have been made. As for those accessories, first off, he gets his arc welder. It just slots over the hand and helps you recreate those 20 or so frames where he's repairing the Autobot shuttle about halfway into the movie. Though at this point, the welder attachment is starting to feel standard issue for some of the figures. And the other accessory is his rifle, which he used to hold the fort down when the Decepticons were attacking Autobot City. And his arms are such that you can kind of get him into that second-hand steadying pose, even with a bunch of the vehicle clattering around down here, so that's kind of cool. As for articulation, the head spins on a ball joint. However, that ball is inverted, meaning head tilt makes his head bob back and forth for the limited amount of up and down he actually does get, and no side-to-side tilt at that. Arms go 360 on a soft 12-point ratchet system. Don't know why it needs to be a ratchet, but considering how loose things are on my copy, I'm not complaining. Arms go out on 2 separate joints for a wide range, elbow bends at 90, and there's an arm swivel as well as a wrist swivel. However, the arm cable is locked to that swivel, which is a bit unfortunate. Waist rotates 360 degrees, legs go all the way to the side, as well as all the way forward and backward, which is nice. Thigh swivel and knees that bend at 90. However, I have to point out, these aren't pinned or anything. They're just friction fit, tab and socket style knees, which is such a stupid idea to put onto a critical joint. These knees support the weight of the top half of the figure, and there's just next to no friction on these joints, making everything feel soft and mushy and floppy. It's made animating this figure a real chore, and if I could isolate a specific joint as least favorite, this would be it right here. These knees suck. Anyway, the feet also tilt and rotate forward, so that's kind of nice actually. Bit of an upgrade from a few years back. For size comparison, Earthrise Trailbreaker, Kingdom Inferno, Kingdom Red Alert, Selects Cordon, Earthrise Blue Streak, Earthrise Runamuck, Generations Drift, Earthrise Cliffjumper, Clunker B, Custom Earthrise Prime, all the other figures that represent their characters from 1986, whether that's pre or post movie, and finally, previous molds of the character and how we got here today. So that was Blurr. he's not a terrible figure. He looks like he should in both robot and vehicle, more so than the figure it borrowed its design from, for sure. However, by doing that borrowing, I really do feel like it holds back Blurr from being any better than just mediocre. He's a great Blurr, absolutely, I'm not arguing that, but from a toy's perspective, just strictly speaking from toy alone, he's okay. That's it. And I, for one, am quite happy not having to animate this figure anymore, as there are flaws that just really bring it down a notch. This has been the Lazy Eyebrow.